sun is in my eyes, but I'm feeling alive. Did you ever like talk yourself out of something or say, that's not for me, and just assume that that's true, but like you didn't really have any proof? Who's the person that told you couldn't do it? Who said you wouldn't be able to accomplish your dreams? Truth is, I know it wasn't anybody but you, because if it was somebody else, you would have proved them wrong already. We love to prove somebody else wrong. Remember when a family friend told me that I wasn't going to finish college because, it's too hard to work full time and go to college. But every time that I would get too tired and not want to wake up or just not feel like going in, I would just remind myself of how I would just be proving her right. And I couldn't be about that. Back when I wanted to put on the first ever zombie walk in Michigan City, my boss told me the city is never going to allow that. So I was super nervous when I went to the Public Board of Works meeting and tried to, let them know that we're not going to be causing any problems. We're just zombies raising food, for the less fortunate and having a good time. It was hard to prove ourselves, but we did it. And probably that person pushing and saying that made me feel like I have to prove her wrong. I'm gonna do this. Truth is, at the end of the day, it's been me standing in my own way. I remember back when I was first starting to put my art out there and I was a little bit intimidated by the arts district. I actually treated it as if it was their fault. Like they said I couldn't be a part of their club. But actually, no one had said that. I just imagined that I didn't fit in, that it was for tourists or for accomplished artists, so I was too afraid. But eventually I said, you know what? I can't be afraid. I gotta put myself out there. So I had my first art show at a realtor's office. And then I started working my way up. I showed my art at Fiddlehead and at some little shops along the way, at Costume World. And eventually started doing shows at the Uptown Artist Lofts and doing pop-ups at Fluid and in front of Static Age. And then it became kind of like this place I was always at. And people were saying I was the person you could ask about the Uptown Artist District. So it kind of was funny how once I just threw myself into it and realized I was the one standing in the way, I was able to do things. Back when I was doing the stand-up comedy thing, I remember that a couple of guys were trying to do the gatekeeping thing, and there was a, somewhat famous comedian touring, so they decided that all of us newcomers weren't going to have any time at that open mic because, this guy showed up, and turns out that we really had brought most of the audience, so we were like, if we don't perform, then our audience is going to go with us and we're going to have a show at Taco Bell. And we ended up getting to perform. But it then made me realize that I needed to look for other places to perform so that I could have a little more control. So I went to a restaurant and I just approached the manager and she's like, yeah, if you can come back to my meeting and make us all laugh, I'll let you run a show here once a week. And I was like, whoa. So that happened. I went back and I sang one cheesecake to the whole staff at their meeting. They got a good laugh, and I started running a show there called Insanely Hilarious, and it had comedians and improv actors, and we had a great time and built a little community with friends, and I really am glad that I did that. So I know this thing about other people standing in your way is not the case, and sometimes it's you standing in your way, and sometimes it's scary to put yourself out there and do things, and sometimes we have to do things like really badly before we can do them really well. And I'm still on my way on that mission, but I do feel like I'm living in my dream and living in my purpose because I've been a little bit less afraid to do things badly, less afraid to put myself out there, and more able to just say, you know what, this is true about me. I am an artist. I am a teacher. I am someone who wants to inspire others, and it is my mission to do so in Michigan City. And the more that I know those things, the more that I can feel them in my gut and in my soul, then I can say no to the things that don't